When we work with Java, we oftentimes want to create our own classes. We can think of classes as being the definition of an object. And here we see a diagram illustrating the setup of a class. In this case, we might think of this as being a class for something like a widget, in which we're going to keep track of the size of the widget, the weight of the widget, and maybe the widget falls into some kind of categories, and so we want to keep track of the categories as character data. We say that we encapsulate the data in the class, and then we have methods that allow us to manipulate the data, access the data, show the data, add data. And we do that by creating an instance of the class called an object. Help you understand that a little bit better, let's think about a pair of dice. A single dice is called a die, and so we create a die class. Here we see a UML diagram for a die class, and in the UML diagram we have some data being hidden, a max, which is the maximum value that can be shown on the dice, 6, the face value, which is going to store the actual data for the face value, and then we have a number of methods. Whenever we create classes, we always have to think in terms of what we might want to do with that object. And so with a pair of dice, or a die, we might want to roll the die. We also might want to be able to set the face value. This would be where you would take the die and set it down on the table, and you could make the 6 be on top, or the 2 on top, or the 5, whatever face value you wanted. So we have a set value a set face value which will let us do that. We also might want to retrieve the face value so that we know what face value is currently stored. And because we oftentimes want to display data, we include a toString method. The face value is stored as an int, as you can see, and oftentimes we want to display data as a string. And so what the toString method will do is take that int and convert it into a string and make a nice display for us. The way we use a class, once we define it, is we create an instance of the class. An instance of the class is an object. So in this case, what has happened is we have created die1, which means that we went into memory, we set aside some memory space to store data about a die, and we assigned a face value of 5 to die1. We also created an instance called die2, and again we went into memory, a different memory location, and we stored the face value of 2 for die2. The way this is done is, once we have created code for the die class, notice that the die class does not have a main method. So in order to run the code, you need a class that has a main method. SnakeEyes is a class that has a main method. Here you can see the main method, and as we'll see in a minute, what SnakeEyes does is it creates 2 instances of the die class, and it randomly generates the face value, making use of the random method of the math class, which is in the java.util package. And we'll look at some code that does this in just a minute. So here we have some code for the die class, and as you can see, we have two instance variables, one for storing the max, actually a constant, and then an instance variable for storing the face value as an int. We can see the constructor here called die, and we initialize the face value to 1. Then we have a roll method, and the roll method uses math.random and takes math.random times the max, which in this case is 6, and it adds 1 to it. And you can use the Java API and take a look at the math class and the random method of the math class if you don't understand how that works. But what that will do is it will randomly generate either a value of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and it assigns it to the face value. And then the return method will return that face value. Then we have the set face value, which only allows values between 1 and the max, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and then it assigns the face value. And then we have the get face value, which just simply returns the face value. And we have the toString method, which takes the face value and uses the integer wrapper class to parse the int into a string and displays the result as a string. And then it has a return method to return that. A couple things to notice about the class. The data is encapsulated in the class by being declared as private. That means that it can only be accessed from within the class. But all of the methods are public, which means that we can access them from outside the class, in this case our driver, which is our snakeeyes.java. The Java source code used in this video is available as a free download at www.myiowatech.com. The My Iowa Tech website provides additional videos on the subject of Java, PHP, network security, and other programming technologies.